Okay, let me make, because it says preparing. When it says preparing, okay, let's see. Okay. Okay, it says preparing. Okay.
I think with this background on, this sun that's coming my way is too much. It's like it's washing it out.
Mm.
Does the back paint? It doesn't look like it's washed out to you, like real bright and blurry.
The only thing, no, you look like you, no, your background looks great, actually. No, your background looks pristine. What it is that you could tell you're blending in with it. You know what I'm saying? You're blending in, and I see the sun kind of like a glare on your face. Let's see. Okay.
I'll take that. I'll take that cape off.
Okay. All right.
Maybe that'll be better. I don't know.
I mean, the sun is still in your face. You know what I'm saying? But you know, it's.
And I'm gonna be heading north anyway. Right now, I'm going south, and I'm gonna be heading north once I pick my mama up. So hopefully, it maybe won't even be in the way.
Okay. Let's see if I let me see something real. Let me check real quick as how this works. Sometimes I'll have stuff on the like I said, I'm trying to make sure that I got it loaded up. Okay, no, it's okay, it's not showing, it's still saying, okay, so let me do this. Let me do this again. All right, because sometimes I have to do that. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pause the video. And now, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode. This is episode 16, I believe, 16 or 17 of Real Reading Talk. And I am your host, Ms. Sasha. And with Real Reading Talk, I'll do some videos or I will interview awesome guests. And our discussions are centered around the root causes of why there are low levels of literacy in the Black community. And we get to the real of it, because that's something that we say, in particular in the Black community, when we want to talk about what's really going on, what's at the core, the crux of the issue. We say, give it to me real, give it to me straight. Let's have some real talk. So this is Real Reading Talk for that reason. And in addition to Real Reading Talk, we also discuss real reading solutions. So I'm definitely solutions based when it comes to my podcast and when it comes to anything I'm doing in terms of empowering our Black community when it comes to literacy. And today I have an awesome guest. And she is just doing some great, phenomenal things, y'all, in the education space. All right. And trust and believe, y'all know how I roll. For those of you all who have been tuning in to my podcast, you know, I'm about getting folks on here who are talking about ways in which that we can better our Black community, in particular when it comes to literacy and developing that culture of literacy, making reading great again, if you will, when it comes to Black folks, because we come from a history and a legacy of literacy. And so I said, I need to talk to this sister here. She is the owner and founder of Global Faith Academy. For those of you who are able to watch on Facebook, you all can see that beautiful logo that she has behind her. All right. And she is just doing great things with her school. That's right, her school that she started. Okay. And so I said, I need to talk to her. I want you all to be able to listen to the different things that she's doing. And so I want to welcome her to all of you, Miss Hannael Jana. All right. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And
thank you so much.
Yes, definitely. I'm ready to just, you know, jump on in right here. First, what I want to do, usually when I have my guests on, I ask them about what types of things in which they did when it came to what things that they were raised with when it came to literacy in their homes. But before we do that, I would definitely love for you to give everybody some more background in terms of what it is that you do, and what made you come up with the concept of Global Faith Academy and starting your school. So say that first, and then we're going to go in right into how you were raised when it comes to literacy.
Well, thank you, sister, and assalamu alaikum. Peace to everybody who is watching. And I guess I'll start out by saying, simply put, I teach Black children. That's what I do. I don't make any apologies for it. I don't mix my words when it comes to it. And I started Global Faith Academy, I want to 2021, so 2017, I guess it was, when we were officially, let me say, recognized by the state of Ohio. So we are officially recognized by the state of Ohio as a private school. We're in the category of what they call for short OH schools. And that just means that we are a school who has what they call sincerely held religious beliefs. And because of that, we don't want to be affiliated with any federal or state mandates for what we have to teach, when we have to teach it, and what we can't teach, what we can't say, what we can incorporate, because we all know that the government runs what schools do and what they don't do. And that also means that we don't get any government, state, or federal funding or anything like that. So everything that we do comes from the tuition that our students, our parents pay, as well as donations from folks who are in our circle, who are in our community. But in addition to that, I really felt, as a believer, I know that there, amongst Black people, there is a huge divide between Christians, Muslims, and Israelites. I saw it growing up. I see it as an adult, as a Muslim today. I wasn't always a Muslim, so as a Christian, I also was a practicing Israelite at some point. And so what I didn't want for my children personally was this kind of energy where, oh no, you can't play with them because they go to church on Sunday. Oh, you can't be friends with them because they go on Saturday. Oh, you can't be friends with them because they do something that we don't even know on Fridays, right? And, there's a quote by Brother Malcolm from one of his many speeches where he says, your religion is your business, right? That's your business. That's between you and your Lord. Worship how, when, and whatever fashion it is that you see fit. But there's a unity that Black people must have. Because when I'm out in the street, when my son is out in the street, when the brothers are out in the street, and somebody wants to accost you, a cop want to roll up on you, or a random citizen, nobody stops you first and says, okay, hold on, are you a Christian? Because if you are, then I won't bother you. Are you a Muslim? If you are, then I won't bother you. Nobody cares about that. They don't like you because your skin is Black. And that's simply the bottom line. And so there's a unity that we have to have as Black people, right? And we put those divisions between ourselves. They don't care nothing about what day you worship and what you call them and what language you say it in. They don't care anything about that, right? So we make those divisions between ourselves and say, and it's so much ignorance, because you know as well as I know that we have 95% of what we believe in common, and there's just few little nuances that we don't. And those are the little things that keep us divided, and it's so ignorant, and it doesn't help us to liberate ourselves as Black people, and it doesn't help us to unify ourselves and to educate. So Global Faith Academy came about as a means to be very intentional about that and say that we can learn together, our children can play together, that we can live together, and we can live together and cohabitate and do more than just tolerate each other. We can celebrate each other and we can love each other, and we got this Blackness in common, and we gonna roll on that. We gonna stick with what we got in common versus the small differences that we have that very much so divide us in our communities all over the globe. So that's the gist.
Wow, that right there. I mean, for those of you who understand what it means to educate our Black children, I mean, she said it, in the beginning when she said, I, unapologetically, teach, Black children. And I'm definitely, I've been, following what she's been doing. She puts a lot of posts up on Instagram. And so I definitely want her to speak to some of the things that I've definitely have seen. But one thing I definitely can say is that when I see her posts, I get more and more inspired about what it is that she's doing. She's extremely consistent, when it comes to showing the different activities that she has for her students. And obviously, you see the dedication. And so I definitely would love for Sister Hannael to be able to explore that some more in terms of the different activities, and in particular when it comes to literacy activities, because definitely we know for a fact that if our children cannot read, they're not going to be able to do any subjects. Reading that's the foundation, of our learning. You have to be able
Yeah.
to learn how to read, so, and with that being said, I definitely have seen different activities, like I said, that Sister Hannael has displayed on IG with the different things that she has going on for her students. But before we do that, I would love for you to tell us about how it was when you were growing up. Like, for example, did you grow up in a household where you saw your family members reading a lot? Did you grow up with having those books read to you before bed, going to the library a lot? Give us some insight in terms of your literacy background.
So no, I did not. I did not grow up in a home where there was reading going on. We didn't have books at home unless they were something that we brought home from school, which was rare. We didn't bring books home from school much like was done when with children nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom is a college graduate. My father is not even a high school graduate, but my father is very intelligent, very smart. He was the one that helped us with all of our homework. And my mom, with her accounting degrees in mathematics, she's like, I can't help y'all with no homework. I don't know how to do that. But my father, with his 10th grade education, he was the math whiz. So my parents were very intelligent, but they did not read at home. They didn't make us read at home. We didn't go to the library. I can't ever even remember going to the library being a thing. So yeah, no. So we didn't. Actually, growing up, I would say the reading is something that I did not like to do. And I don't know, maybe that's a question that you have later. But growing up, reading was something that I did not like to do at all until I was an older teenager. I guess a young teenager, maybe I can tell about that experience later because I don't know how questioning goes. But yeah, I'll definitely will share that experience too.
Wow. Oh my goodness. And see, that's the thing with my interviews. And this is why I ask the certain questions the way that I do, because with the answers that I get, it's going to take me into another question.
Yeah.
And I love that because I feel like, it, number one, it makes it more conversational. You know what I'm saying? More.
Yeah.
And it's like, because, and I like to, when I'm interviewing guests, I try to do the best I can to get to know you as much as I possibly can. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like in us trying to develop that relationship, even though it's like a small, this is a small, what I'm saying, amount of time, that we're talking.
Yeah.
It's not, we've been talking for, what I'm saying, years or whatever the case, but it does give us just a little bit of insight as to how you're doing the things that you're doing now. And the thing is that, sis, oh my gosh, man, we got some things up in here in common. Okay. When you talked about how, no, you didn't see parents reading at home, you didn't get, same here. Okay. And and my parents, they graduate, like my mom, they both actually have, my mom has like an associate's degree, and my dad, he has a degree. Well, it's more like he went to this technical college.
Okay.
He's an entrepreneur. He got his own business. He does HVAC. That's what it's called. And so he does
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
He listening, he probably like, no, you didn't try to play me and forget what it. I'm all like, what is that called? Daddy, I'm just,
I know that's right.
I remember. No. And
I know that's right.
and my mom, she's like she had like into nursing. She was a nurse's assistant, and then she does like adult daycare, and she's, home,
Okay.
all of that, you know what I'm saying? So they come, so same with, I agree with you in terms of that. We both have parents who educate all of that, but growing up, my mom, what I'm saying, being a single mom, my mom and dad, they weren't married. And so my mom just had me. And so it was really about survival. You know what I'm saying? It was about, let me
Yeah.
get out here, you go to work, make this money, and I'm gonna make sure you're doing what you gotta do. But no, I'm not reading stories to you and all that type of stuff. Now, of course, like my mom, when I saw her in school, I remember obviously she had to study those types of things because I remember that.
Yeah.
But in terms of, like you said, no, I didn't grow up in a house where it was just books everywhere and we were having these lessons and these read alouds. It was none of that. And like you,
Yeah.
I didn't start actually my reading journey. It was more when after I became Muslim, because I took my Shahada when I was 18,
Wow.
19, yeah, and 90.
Okay.
So that's when I started really, seeing an uptick or upsurge, if you will, when it came to me,
Yeah.
getting my reading on. So that right there is like, when you said it, I'm like, dang. And then I'm just like, and then it is so crazy, just like how you talked about with your dad, how you will have that person, yeah, they may not have the degree, they may not even have the diploma, but they are just
Mhm.
the most brilliant, you know what I'm saying, smartest
My
people.
father is brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. My father's brilliant.
That is, I mean, and
He
that's,
grew up in a time. He just grew up in a different time where going to school past a certain age wasn't a priority. If you had to get out and work to help your family, you had to go to work. And
yep.
the child labor laws weren't a thing at the time. There was no law that said a child couldn't work from
Mhm.
this time, and from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Right.
You could lie about your age very easily. Those
Mhm.
types of things. He just grew up in a different time. So definitely, it's no testament to his intelligence or his willingness to learn, or his affinity for school. It was just a better things to do at the time, and so he did what he had to do. But yeah, my dad was the one that was on top of that homework and those books and like
Mm.
teaching us math and helping us with math and science. And my mom, where her educated, so she like, girl, no, I don't know how to do no long division. I don't remember that. And my dad was like, I got it. All of the hard stuff, all of the algebra, everything. And my
Hey,
mom was just like, ask your daddy. I don't know.
wow. Hey, but you
Yeah.
know what? I respect the fact that, hey, look, she said, hey, this is not my lane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is his lane. Let him shine in his lane. And that right there, that's support. And at least you grew up and look at that by
Yeah.
even remembering
Yeah.
that. And you know what I'm saying? That
Mm-hmm.
obviously left an impact and imprint on you. And
Absolutely.
what I want to ask about, just like you talked about in terms of you starting to read in your teenage years. Now, what made you start, getting into reading? And then what types of books did you gravitate to?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So I typical for schools. I don't think there's anything different today than it was 25, 30 years ago, when this was taking place in my life. And all of the books, I will remember in high school, there was only one book that was assigned reading that had Black characters, and it was Black Boy, by Richard Wright. By that time, I was just so turned off by reading that it wouldn't have mattered how many Black folks was in the book. It was just kind of, all that Fahrenheit 451 and all the stuff I didn't read, got the Cliff Notes too, and watched the movie if a movie came with it, because it was like, I don't want to read about, Marley Diaz. I know you know who Marley Diaz is, the little girl who set out on the mission to find 1,000 Black girl books. And I can remember her in a very, very early interview talking about why she was on this mission. And she said, I was tired of reading about white boys and their dogs. And that stuck with me because I felt that on such a deep level, because I felt the same way as a young person. I was sick and tired of reading about white folks. things that I couldn't relate to. They were going to the cabin on the weekends. Like the whole book would be about my family and I went to the cabin on the weekend and we fished on the lake and we did this. And those are all things like that I could, not that Black people don't go fishing, not that Black people, but the whole makeup of the story was just not something that I could relate to. And there were so many of them like it. And it was just like, I don't know, I felt defeated, you know, like, and it didn't have, I could read, I could comprehend, I could write, there was no problem. I just didn't want to. And so I halfway cheated myself all the way through junior high school because I wasn't reading those books. So one day, and I don't even know how I got a hold of this book. I really do hope that this piece of this memory comes back to me. But somehow I got a hold of Black Girl Lost by Donald Goines. I was probably 13 years old, had to be 13 years old, and early 13. Totally inappropriate for a 13-year-old. Because if you've ever read anything by Donald Goines, Iceberg Slim, and any of those authors from the 70s, it was gangs and dope running and pimps and prostitutes. And, you know, they was, back in that day, they called heroin smack. So I can remember reading in the book saying, smack? What is that? I had to ask my daddy, what, daddy, what's smack? He said, girl, that's heroin. And I was like, what? So it was just totally inappropriate for a 13-year-old, but it was a page turner. And I was like, oh my God. And then what happened? I'm like, oh my. And it was like, I would just read a book in a day. And then that's when I started going to the library on my own. I said, well, I got to find these other books. There was no internet at the time, so there was no way to, I had to go to the library. And I was like, I got to find these other books. And I started, and I read one after the other, after the other, after the other. And that's what really started me, you know, developing a love for reading was the content. And so then I read a lot of the other popular Eric Jerome Dickey's and all those kind of people through the 90s as an adult. So then I read a lot of those books. And then I kind of just switched over and I said, you know, I'm done reading fiction. So now I don't read anything but nonfiction, really, unless I'm reading it with the children or something like that. But so that's really how I got started with reading, was that one Donald Goines book. Totally inappropriate. I know. My mom knew I was reading that book. And my dad, he was like so cool. He wouldn't tell, but it was inappropriate by all stretch. But it worked. It worked. It worked. And here we are today, and I still love reading. And I got a house full of books. I got a storage unit full of books. You know, reading. You know, but kids have to have. Black children need to have books that reflect them and their stories and their families and things that they can relate to. I think you remove a good 75% of the anxiety and the chore of reading when it's something that you can relate to. When the people have names that like yours and when they talk like you and the vernacular is something that you can relate to, you know, things that are happening, things that you can relate to. It takes all of that other stuff away from it. And then I think young people can really start to enjoy reading, most of them. Yeah, so that's how I got into reading.
Wow. But the thing is that again, you dropped some nuggets. You know, one of the things you said was that you gravitated to a book that the characters, they look like you. Now, even though you wasn't around all that, you know, the craziness, you know what I'm saying, in a lot of those types of books, you know, but at the same time, it was something that intrigued you. And again, like you said, you're looking at these characters that, you know, look like you know, they have a lot of conversations, you know what I'm saying, like you do with your friends and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And this is my thing, which is so tripped out. Now, I've done research, just like I know you've done research. We've seen the research. We've read the research. Folks out here saying the same thing. What you just said, how you said 75% of the anxiety of kids it'll be taken away from the children if they have books that represented them. So what's the problem? How come still to this day, the schools are not flooded with books that represent our baby? The
bottom line is they don't have an interest in giving your child anything that looks like them, reflects them, supports them, reinforces them, or anything like that. That's just not, they don't have an interest in doing that. So why would they spend thousands of dollars creating a library that looks like your child. You would think that would be the case, especially in the urban schools districts. I mean, you're talking about schools that have 90-something% Black student body population. They don't have that. It's not in the equation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Schools invest in people in general, schools, businesses, whatever. They invest in what's important to them, and that's just not important to them. They don't have an interest in your child seeing themselves stories about Black leaders and other Blackness, whether it's fiction, fact, or whatever. That's just not what they want to do.
But the crazy thing though is that you see how they'll put all of these different reports out about how, again, these Black children, they're not reading a lot because of the fact, they don't have diverse books, all of these types of things. But again, you still do not see the school libraries. In fact, a lot of these schools don't even have school libraries anymore in them. I was substituting, for the city of Cleveland, and I would be, purposely looking for the different school libraries. I mean, it'll be, if it's there, it's like, hardly, any up-to-date books. And they definitely did not have a lot of books that represented the majority of the population of children that they're serving. Or some of the library, they just wouldn't even have a library. You know what I'm saying?
So these reports that you're talking about, mm-hmm. reports that come out of that corroborate what we're saying, right? That's like Black Lives Matter and other projects that say police brutality is this and that, and we're gonna put money into this and money into that effort and this effort, mm-hmm. but then it changes nothing, but they still bust your head in the middle of the street and get away with it. It's like it's a lot of lip service to the situation and not any real work, not anything that's tangible. There's just not an interest for it. There really isn't.
Yeah. And it's obvious, and that's the thing. And this, again, now this question, us conversating about this is a segue into your academy, your school that you started, because definitely you made it abundantly clear in the beginning that you are unapologetically for Black children. You're unapologetically for the education of Black children. So in saying that, tell us about when you decided, I know you said in 2017, it actually, became recognized by the state of Ohio, as, a legitimate school, private school. And then the thing too, that you talked about, how you're not getting any funding from the government, so you have to get,
right.
from the parents and everything like that. But I want you to,
right.
Just give us a little insight into the beginnings of your school in terms of you developing it, that concept of Global Faith Academy.
Well, I'm a homeschooler, and I've been a homeschooler for many years. I've probably, 10, 12 years, something like that, probably, that I've been homeschooling. So that's where I started. And I still consider myself a homeschool. I consider our school a private homeschool. That's the category that I put our school in, is that we are a private homeschool, because I like to still teach in that way where you can individualize a child's work and what they're doing. And I love to tell people, just because you have a group of 12-year-olds, that doesn't mean that they all are on the same level. That doesn't mean they have the same abilities, and that doesn't mean they have the same interests. And you do best educating a child within the framework of their own interests and their own passions, besides whatever you think is necessary, whatever the vehicle you think is necessary for whatever the concept is that needs to be learned at the time. And so with that being said, I think it's really, you do a disservice to young people when you say, because you all are the same age, you all have to be in the same grade together, you all have to do the same work at the same time, you all have the same exact standards, same exact metrics. We're gauging you all against the same level, and it's just not fair, it's not appropriate, but that's just how school is set up. Mm-hmm. So for years as a homeschooler, I've had parents asking me what I teach their children, and I was like, not ever. Not ever going to do that. And I really didn't want to do that because, this is a very non-traditional and revolutionary approach to education. And it's difficult enough for me even to wrap my head around sometimes and feel like I'm being successful at it. I don't need your child over here and you come calling me, asking me why we ain't learning about the president, why we ain't memorizing the 50 presidents, 45 presidents, or whatever. I'm not about to add that kind of energy and stress level to my life. It's not because I don't. I'm not going to. I'm not going to make my children or my students memorize the presidents of the United States. I memorized it in 4th grade, and I couldn't tell you today who the 3rd president of the United States was, or the 12th president, or the 16th president, or the 20th president. I just don't know. I don't have a clue. It's not necessary. It's not relevant for me personally. It's not relevant for my life. It neither makes or my existence, right? And so I just never wanted to teach other people's children. And then along comes social media, and you're putting, like you said in my introduction, you're putting things on social media. People are seeing you do this and do that, and then people started asking me, "Are you going to do some online classes?" I was like, "Never. You better watch these posts and take notes. These 60-second posts. Glean what you can and shoot me a DM if you need some further kind of whatever. But no, I will not be teaching any online classes or anything like that." In the state of Ohio, though, as a homeschooler, you still have to either take the standardized test for promotion, or 2, you have to have a licensed certified teacher, review a portfolio of your child's work in order to promote them to the next grade. And I am 100% against standardized tests. Like, when my children did go to school, or my daughter did go to school, I was opting out of standardized tests then. I'm sorry for you. And I didn't say this at the beginning. I am driving, and I'm very sorry, but I did not want to cancel this interview with my sister. So I said, I'm going to have to drive and get to the basketball game on time and do this interview at the same time. We're going to make it work. So that was the snow on top of my car that my son did not remove like I told him to, making that loud noise. So if you see me turn my head or, do something there, that's what I'm doing. I am driving, but I'm making it work.
You know how we do. Come on.
Yeah, we got to multitask. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So standardized testing is definitely something that I do not, what I was saying was that when my daughter was in school, I opted out, and a lot of people don't even know that you can opt out of standardized tests. If your children go to school, you can opt out of standardized tests. If you don't know how, then shoot me a message on Instagram via Global Faith Academy. But you can absolutely opt out of standardized testing in your child's school. All over the country, you can do it. So I was opting out, and I said, if I was opting out when she was in school for that short period of time, why would I bring her home? And then she still has to take a standardized test. And I, at the time, initially didn't know how to do that. Because when we started homeschooling, we started by using K-12, which is a online public school. And that didn't last long because it's horrible. That's a whole other conversation. Some people like it, but for me and my purposes and my,
That's all right. Go
it's
ahead.
horrible. It's horrible. And you still had to take the standardized test at the end of the year because they are a school. If you're using QDA, Connections Academy, ECOT, K-12, you're not homeschooling. You're just doing public school in your living room or in your dining room or in your bedroom or wherever you're doing it. And so I had to figure out a way that I could try to work that out. And then there was a lady, she actually lives in Northern Ohio, and she told me how it was possible that I could start a private school. And I said, you are kidding me. And so that's how we got to starting the school. It really was just a personal thing because I wanted to secure those things for my own children. And then, I made it public, and then I kind of was like, where do we go from here? Like, is it just going to be this? Because I did have a vision for it. And the vision for actually having a school came from working in school, because I did teach in school for a few years, and that story is interesting too because I am not a licensed teacher.
Okay.
I am not a licensed teacher, so teaching in school came about in a very interesting way. I actually have my mom in the car with me, and I can tell that story if we have time as well. But from teaching in school, I said, you know what? If I had a school, I would do this. I would do it this way. These would be some of my policies. And I had a notebook, and I just started jotting down like names that I may will call it and different things that I would incorporate, different policies and rules that I would have. And it kind of set for like 4 or 5 years. I just would add things to it every now and then. And then when it came about, I was like, it just like dawned on me when I was like, wait a minute, I've been writing about this for the last 4 or 5 years. Like, really? So I had to pray about it too, because I couldn't find a notebook. And when I looked and I had to stop one day. I said, okay, Lord, show me where the notebook is at. Show me where, because I know you know where the notebook is at. Show me where the notebook is at. Right. And it was like the very next morning, it was like an aha moment. And I was like, notebook is right there. And I went right to that spot. That's exactly where the notebook was. And I read back through my notes, and it was just amazing to see what I had jotted down over the years, and how those things are really coming to fruition. Because at the time, it was just like an idea. It wasn't something I like actually planned to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's how we really got to starting the school. And then once I got my notebook out and started piecing some things together, I said, okay, well, I guess I'll actually really start a school. You know, how the school. And just kind of started putting the pieces together. And the first year I was in my home with additional students, and then the next year we acquired a building, and kind of just went from there.
Well, I look, you definitely, and it's because especially a lot of Black folks who are homeschooling, usually that the whole conversation, number one, when you talked about in terms of the standardized tests. Because I'm so glad you said it, because I was going to ask you that. And I said, look at that. See, that's what I'm talking about. You know, asking questions, you just automatically, it was going to go to one of the things, you know, that I wanted to talk about, you know, in terms of that whole standardized test piece. And like you said, it's like, what's the whole point of having your children being educated at home if they still got to take those tests? You know, because, and it's funny because I remember reading a post somebody had put up, is an educator, and he was talking about, you know, we still need to have standardized, and it's a Black educator, we still need to have standardized tests for now, because that's the only way to, you know, gauge and see where our children are, you know, on an equal footing, you know. And I'm just sitting up there like, I'm like, first of all, number one, what are those tests proving? You know what I'm saying? That's number one. Number two, just like how you talked about, how you provide an education that's non-traditional and revolutionary. You know, that right there, that stuck out to me, because I'm like, okay, yeah, revolutionary. That means you want something changed. You don't want to keep dealing with the same thing and then trying to, you know, okay, I'm gonna finagle it like this, and like, because as we see, it's not working still for our children. It's still not working for our kids. Our kid, even when you have people who decide, they say, okay, you know, I'm tired of these public schools. I'm gonna do a charter school. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna, you know, have them go to this type of school. They specialize in this. Just like my children, they went to a school that was supposedly dealing with entrepreneurship, and it wasn't nothing. They had some little entrepreneurship type of class after school, and then the next year they took it away. And I asked them why, and they said because the children were struggling when it came to reading, and so we need to focus on them reading. And I'm like, that didn't even make common sense. I'm like, so wait a minute, you telling me you can't have something, the school is, you know, in the titles, entrepreneurship, you can't have anything talking about teaching the children about being entrepreneurs because the kids aren't doing well in reading? I mean,
well, you didn't take away social studies because they struggle with reading. You didn't take away science because they struggle with reading. You didn't take away gym class and health class, and you didn't take away anything else because they struggle in reading. They got to read to do anything. That doesn't even make any sense.
That ain't make no sense. You're like, you got to read to do whatever subject. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, come on, man. So I mean, you know, so those types of, responses. It's like it just really is just nauseating. It's frustrating. It's just disgusting, because it's like, okay, just like how you said, when it comes to educating our children, we know best what our children need.
Yeah.
We know we in education, and you tell me, and I would like for you too to tell us, how you got into teaching too. I'm definitely interested in that story, but you tell me in terms of education, do you think, and this is my belief, I believe that, again, we have to reimagine how we are educating our children. What do I mean by that? We can't keep just always doing the same, humdrum. Okay, they're learning about this aspect, they're learning about this in social studies, this in science, all. And you think about like just the basic curriculums that they're giving in the schools, it's
Yeah.
like they're giving the same thing. They all, of course they talk about, Greek society, you know what I'm saying? Because they trying to, prep you
Yeah.
for democracy. They always go to that route. You hardly ever learn anything about Africa. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're not, and then you're learning, and then they go to the same books when it comes to English class. So you're gonna get your Shakespeare, you're gonna get your Diary of Anne Frank. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, Fear and
Yeah, those are the books I was talking about. Yeah.
you're going to get these same. And I'm thinking about folks like Dr. Amos Wilson, which I know, I've seen you, Poe. Okay. It's like, please.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
it's like he's talking about in terms of education should be meeting the needs of the community. There should be a way to solve the problems in our communities. How,
Absolutely.
how do you think that people, what do you think in terms of those Black people right now in particular, and you got other, people from all backgrounds listening, but in particular, yes, again, like I said, this is real reading talk, and my focus is on our Black families when it comes to literacy and getting us out of the low levels of literacy. So how is it that for those Black folks who are homeschooling or thinking about educating their children, what should they do in terms of teaching their children, and when it comes to education and understanding that it should be solving the problems in our communities? Where should they start?
I think that's a very good question. It's a very big question, a very broad question.
Okay.
And I think it can look differently for different people and for different families. If I want to speak generally, I will say that I think, and particularly because we're talking about reading, our focus is reading, I think you need to, I always tell parents, you need to spend more money on books than you spend on curriculum. The first thing the parents ask me, especially new homeschoolers, they say, what curriculum do you recommend for this? And I say none. You need to spend your money on books. There are a load of awesome, awesome, awesome books that will get you much further and get your child much further and give them much richer, culturally relevant educational experience than what you'll get out of curriculum. There are no full service curriculums made by Black people. There's a lot of content out there. There's a lot of good content out there. Resources, should I say, made by Kamali Academy and Black Classical University and Beauty and Beast and so many others. There are a lot of great content and resource makers, but for full curriculum like you can get with, I don't know, Father Time and some of those other companies, it's going to cost you $700, $800, $900, $1,000 a year. You do better buying workbooks from here, some flashcards from here, and building your own curriculum based on these resources. They're cheaper and they are better suited for your children. So I think reading is so important. And you want to build a library in your home. Your home should be a library. You should have more bookcases lining the wall than you have other pieces of furniture and paintings on your wall and all of that. You should make space for lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of books in their bedrooms, on the dressers, wherever. In the kitchen, you can have books in your kitchen because lots of families congregate in their kitchen. Mm-hmm. Right? Most families congregate in their kitchens. Mm-hmm. You should make room for lots and lots of books, because the more books you have around, the better chance of them reading. The more those books look like them, are chosen by them, You know, I have a personal rule that I don't make my children or my students read anything. As long as they're reading, they can choose whatever it is they want to read. You're not going to be mad at me and not want to read, because there are some things that are required reading, like the autobiography of Malcolm X is required reading.
Okay.
You know, revolutionary suicide is, that's required reading, right? So there are some things that are required reading, but we're really talking about for older students, older children, but especially in those young ages, they can read whatever they want to read, as long as they're reading, okay? As long as they're reading, they can read whatever it is that they want to read. I'm sorry, my son is calling me on the other line. I'm trying to hang up the call. He knows I'm on this video call with you. I'll have my mom call him from her phone and make sure they don't have an emergency.
Okay.
But yes, I think that's very important, and that's very crucial. I think that way you can, and I share some of this on my page. Not all of it even comes from me. I'm not the know end all and be all, but know it all when it comes to education or homeschooling, or even Black homeschooling, you know, if that matters. So I share a lot of what other families are doing.
Uh-oh.
Homeschooling activities, and
you buffered. You kind of faded out a little.
She is very good at taking one, picture book by. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, but you said go back a couple of sentences. I know you had mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was, doing the whole buffering, type of thing or whatever. So go back to where I know you mentioned about you named in terms of them choosing their own books. I know you said that you talked about required reading. So somewhere around there, when you talked about already required reading, an autobiography of Malcolm X, revolutionary, what is it, that title again? I'm gonna just be honest with you. I just heard of that book recently by Huey P. Newton. I literally just heard of that book.
Okay.
Say that title again, please. Uh-oh.
Yeah, but there are revolutionary suicide.
Revolutionary suicide. Okay. Uh-oh. 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 Buffering.
I was saying that you read for some children. It's probably where I am. I'm here though. I'm here.
Oh, okay. I just got a couple more questions. I know you. I know you running, so I just had a couple more questions after that. Finish up your last point for us, please.
Oh, no, you okay?
Oh, okay.
I was just saying that children being allowed to read what they want to read.
Right.
And for some children that may be comic books, for some children that may be magazines, for some it's chapter books, for some it's religious books. I mean, it can span the gamut, and I try not to discourage reading certain things because of age level, right? Kind of like towards my own story. That book was above my.
Right. Uh-oh. I apologize, y'all. Y'all know how this technology is. Y'all know what it is. Come on. Y'all already know. Yeah, you know how it is too. When it's really getting real good, then they want to act all crazy.
Probably just not good if your child may be interested in something like that. I was just reading it with them.
Hopefully we can.
Things and explain things.
Hopefully you can get in the area where it's a little more clear. I want to tell everybody who I'm talking. I'm talking to Sister Hannael.
Can you hear me?
Uh-oh, you going in and out. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, okay, you guys. I'm gonna go. I think she's gonna hopefully she'll be able to call back in. But again, I just wanted to just sum up what she has been talking about. For those of you who just came into our conversation, this is Real Reading Talk. I am your host, Miss Sasha. This is my Real Reading Talk podcast. Please make sure that you go to Anchor and make sure that you subscribe to my podcast. You go to Anchor, make sure you download that app on your phone so you can get more conversations like this. As you see, like I said, it's more than just talk. We're about solutions. She's coming on in. Yes. All right, unmute. Now you gotta unmute yourself. Mute, yeah.
All right, I'm still
There we go.
Still here. It was reconnecting me. So
Yay! Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my goodness. So I was just summing up again what you were saying in terms of, making sure that number one, you have a plethora of books around your children, have books everywhere. I love how you said that. Oh my gosh. And I'm definitely a big proponent of it.
And you know what? Mm-hmm. And you know what, Sasha? It doesn't have to be a costly investment either. I purchase a lot of books. Mm-hmm. You can get free books at the library. You can get books at the library. And if you live in an urban area, mm-hmm. your library should be phenomenal. They should have a ton of books, Black books for your children to choose from. It may not at your local branch, but at least in Cincinnati, if I want to request a book, like our library system has an app, I can go on there and request a book. If it isn't at the library that I normally pick my books up from closest to my house, okay. They move books around in the whole system, whether it's at the main library downtown, whether it's at a library 10 miles away. They move those books around the city, and then they deliver it to your local branch, and then you pick it up from there, or you can pick it up from whatever branch you want to. So I don't even have to run around the city like, oh, well, that particular book is, in Delhi, and I've got to drive way to Delhi. And now the next book I want is downtown, and I got to drive downtown, So, and I imagine that other cities are probably similar. Mm-hmm. And that the system is very similar, and that there's a lot of books. So you don't have to buy them all, especially with growing children whose interests will change. Right. And you're buying a lot of board books. I wouldn't suggest buying a lot of board books and those lower level books, because soon they're going to grow out of them. Mm-hmm. Unless you're in a community of people who you can trade things with. Homeschoolers love to trade and sell off things. Yeah. With people in their local community, or via social media and things like that. You may have to ship some things to some people. I've shipped a lot of materials and things that I knew that I was finished using to other people. And it works just the same, but you can get a lot of, you can get great books from your local library. So I did want to clear that up, but you don't have to purchase them all. However, you get the books, you still need to have a lot of books right. at home in order to facilitate literacy and to develop a love for reading in your children.
And that's powerful. Yeah. I mean, and that really, and that speaks volumes, because the thing is that, we understand the reason why our people were denied reading. They were denied the fact that they learn to read because of the fact reading is freedom. Reading is liberation.
Oh, absolutely.
And when we learn that from when you narratives, you know what I'm saying, about our enslaved ancestors who were enslaved, and majority of those narratives talk about in terms of, okay, they were, had snuck to learn how to read, or, you had, of course, Frederick Douglass, he was, able to teach people how to read. The one sister, Harriet Jacobs, the life of the slave girl, she talked about that, how she was teaching people how to read, and understanding that reading is that's where it starts in terms of our children understanding what liberation looks like, because you have to be educated. You have to be able to read, research, understand what has been happened, what's going on, being able and then too, how it teaches in terms of critical thinking skills. You know what I'm saying? Being able to, problem solve, So it's like, so again, Sister Hannael is just, dropping some nuggets for everybody. And I pray and hope that everybody writes
You
down.
know, I'm
Yeah. What are you saying? Uh-oh. There's a lot of buffering. Uh-oh. Hopefully she'll be able to come back on.
yes,
So
yes.
Can you tell us real quick though, in terms of how you got into teaching without the degree? How that happened? We need
I just was saying, yes, write it down.
Uh-oh. It's in and out, y'all. I definitely.
Oh, this is how it happened. I hope, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Yeah, okay, cool.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay,
Yep.
okay. So, see, what had happened was.
Uh-oh, here we go.
So I was full-fledged homeschooling, and I was active in the community, and I was advocating for people, Black people and brown people, you know, teaching their children at home by any means necessary. Mm-hmm. And I was on a radio program, a local radio program, and I was talking about homeschooling. I was having a homeschool, like a local homeschool conference. And so I was publicizing that, but I was as well just talking about homeschooling and, you know, putting my perspective out there, why it's an absolute necessity. I think homeschooling Black children is just as important as drinking water. It is a matter of life or death, physical life, spiritual life, mental life, emotional life. It is a matter of life or death, as I'm concerned. So I'm on the radio show and I'm talking about homeschooling, and I'm just doing my thing. I'm talking. The show is over. So I guess it was a couple of days later, a coworker of my mom's comes to my mom and says, "Is that your daughter who be doing the homeschooling? And she was on the radio talking about homeschooling." She was like, "Yeah, that's my daughter." She's like, "I thought so." When she said her name, she was like, "Yeah, because my sister is the principal of X, Y, and Z school, and she's looking for somebody. She's looking to."
Oh man, come on. Not one
that she can have work with group of children, okay, who are like their lowest performing students, you know. And I'm gonna tell her about, so you think your daughter would be interested in that? She was like, "Well, I don't know, but I'll ask her." And so she did. She asked me, and I said, "Okay, I'll give it a try." And I met with the lady. They hired me on, and that turned into like a 3-year span of teaching. Wow. And I stayed there as long as I could. I had various different positions, different groups of people. I worked a lot in SPED. I enjoyed working in SPED. The SPED program.
What's SPED again?
Special education. SPED is special education. So unfortunately for the schools that I worked in the city district, in the Cincinnati district, they weren't phenomenal. There was nothing like fantastic about them. Like, and I don't mean like necessarily, I don't mean they were mistreating them or anything like that. It just wasn't nothing to write home about. And then I had an assignment that I got called on to. It was just people just like coming from like out of nowhere, like, "Oh, I have a special student," like not special as in SPED, but like we have one particular student that like nobody else can really seem to get to and work with and blah, blah, blah. And I ended up out there, and I ended up in a very, very white school district. And their SPED program was awesome. Like I would never, ever, 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 ever advocate for moving to taking your Black family and moving out to some other neighborhood because the schools are better. That's a whole nother conversation. The schools are better. Like Malcolm X said, who told you the ICE is cold? They ICE is colder. The white man's ICE is colder. Lies. But however, their SPED program was much better than what I saw in the inner school district. But I mean, I had much success there. And I felt very accomplished there in some ways. I had young people that I was working with that have always gotten B's and F's. They were suspended most of the time because of behavior, but the root of the behavior is always low academics. It's like I'd rather be dumb. I'd rather be bad than be dumb.
Right.
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 So they act out and they have all these behaviors. It really is just that I don't know how to do the work. It's hard. I don't want nobody teasing me. I'd rather them laugh at me because I'm a class clown than laugh at me because I can't read. And so I had young people that I worked with, and there was a one girl, and she said, Miss Evans, I've never gotten an A, never. And it like brought me to tears. I got in my car and I cried. She said, Miss Evans, I've never gotten an A. And all it took was somebody giving her some attention and telling her she was pretty. She was a chocolate little girl. She had issues with the way she looked. And I used to grab her by her face. And when she was reading, I would play with her hair. And I would say, girl, you're so pretty. Oh, say that word again. Oh. And all it took was encouraging her and telling her she was pretty and taking my time with her and talking to her mom. Her mom didn't know how to deal with her. And I would get on the phone with her mama and talk to her. Or her mother would call me after hours like, I don't know where she at. She ain't come home tonight. And I'll be like, I'm about to call her on her phone. I'll be like, girl, if you don't go home, I'm about to get in my car and it's going to be something when I find you out in the street. Okay, I'm going home. She tell her friend, I gotta go home. I gotta go home. And so, there's a rapport that has to be developed with young people, especially young people who really struggle with school. There has to be a way that you connect with them that's not school. You have to reach them on some totally different type of stuff. And sometimes it takes doing a lot of that before you can even get into the teaching part. Sometimes it's a whole lot of sessions of just talking about regular stuff. And your friends, girl, your friend did what? Girl, tell me more. Just so they can feel like you're invested in who they are and in their lives, and not just, can you read this for me? Can you do this math problem? So it was rewarding, but at the same time, I felt complicit in the school to prison pipeline. And I felt like, I just can't do this no more. I just can't keep coming here every day, participating in the school to prison pipeline. I think Black teachers are absolutely necessary in school, because the reality is that most of our children will not be homeschooled. It's just a reality. So we do need some soldiers in the schools who are advocating for them and who are teaching them and who are stepping up the bar. Those teachers are absolutely necessary in schools. But for me personally, I just couldn't do it anymore. And I said, I think I'm better served somewhere else, taking my talents, number one, back home to my children. It took away time from my children and homeschooling my own daughter. Right. But yeah, I had to do something different. So I did. And, then, Global Faith Academy came along after that. But like I said, my experiences there are what really started me doing the note taking, because there's a lot that I saw that I just couldn't rock with. And I said, this isn't healthy. It's not productive. So many things. Again, a totally different conversation. Different day. I can talk about that alone, about what I saw in school and how it was detrimental to the overall health of Black children, and certainly does nothing for our liberation as a people. So I had to give them the two fingers and, go on back to my home, my safe space, and do my thing. So that's what I did, and that's where we are. But yeah, that's how I got in there. The lady heard me on the radio and knew my mother and I's name is very close. Her name is my birth name, Jana Evans. Her name is Janet Evans. And so she was like, that's like the same name. She was like, I bet that's her daughter. And that's how she heard the interview, and she was like, I think your daughter will be good for what my sister's looking for at her school. That's how I got there. And they actually ended up giving me, because you can get like, what do they call them? As long as you have a degree, you can get like, I want to call it secondary, but like, you can get a teaching certificate. Okay. As long as you have a degree. And it just kind of depends on how they kind of bring you in, what title. They may bring you in under tutor. They may bring you in under teacher's aide, and then you just have some other kind of responsibilities and duties. But you can come in as a long term. You can as a sub. I know you said you sub. Right. You can come in as a sub. You can come in as a long term sub. That's what I was. You can be a long term. You can be a long term sub and have your own full fledged classroom and not even bounce around from school to school and things like that. So, there's different ways that they finagle that and everything. And to this day, I still do not have a teaching degree. I considered getting a master's, going to get my master's in education, only because of how it'll take our school to the next level, and what we could possibly do and things like that. But I don't really have an interest in my going to school to get a master's in education would only be so that my school could take ed choice. I don't have any interest in learning any of their pedagogy, any of their methods of teaching. I'm not interested in any of that. I have my own, approach to education. And there are other educators. You talked about Amos Wilson and Jawaza Kunjufu and Marva Collins. There are others who have come before us who we can model ourselves after, and I'm just not interested in learning anything they have to say. Not that not that there isn't any part of it that's beneficial. Right. I'm sure it is beneficial, but I don't have to pay you to get it. It's all public knowledge. It's out there for you. They're not teaching nothing in college that you couldn't learn on your own. Nothing.
I hear you.
It's just some career paths require that piece of paper for you to be legally allowed, like say a doctor. You have to go to college and have to go, or to be a lawyer, you have to go to college. But you could learn almost anything on your own, being self-taught, or in some other kind of, by some other kind of means. But yeah, that's a whole. Now I'm on a tangent, girl. But yeah, I mean, that's my story. That's how I got into compulsory education, teaching in that system, and I stayed there about 3 years, and I was gone. Hey. I don't know how folks do 25 years. I don't know how they do it. But
who you tell?
We need them to do it. We need them to do it. We need them to be there doing it. That's for certain, without a shadow of a doubt. We need them there doing it. So yeah. Exactly.
And then I'm glad you said that aspect, because I know there are folks who are listening and watching. They're like, well, everybody can't homeschool, and she said it best. That's right. We know everybody can't homeschool, but we definitely need soldiers. That's the key, and we need to make sure that we got folks that aren't just our skin folk. All right, they have to be our conscious folk. Okay.
Say that.
For real.
Say that.
It's like,
and let me clarify in case I was unclear. I think that every child can be homeschooled. I think it's the parents who put limitations on themselves for whether they can or cannot homeschool. So like your statement when you said that, everybody can't homeschool. I think everybody can homeschool. Okay. I think that it's just that we have, like I said, we put the limitations on ourselves. I don't remember this. I don't remember that. I don't remember how to do algebra. Well, nobody said you had to be an algebra teacher. The goal is that you remove your child from the school to prison pipeline. There are other people who know how to teach algebra. My middle son, I actually, I was going to call you, but I chose a Black male for him as a reading tutor because of some of his own personal issues, and I felt like he needed a Black man as a reading tutor. And I tell people, as much as I promote reading and I love to read, I am not a reading specialist. I am not a reading teacher. That's just not my lane. And it also may not be your lane, teaching reading, but guess what? Stacia does, and there are tons of others. There are tons of people and resources. As a homeschooler, that doesn't mean that you have to do it all, or that you're responsible for doing it all. There are tons of great free resources, and there are some things that you're going to have to pay for. I got to pay good money for him to sit with this guy on the computer and work on his reading, but it's worth it. And I'm not going to frustrate myself nor him and do him a disservice, because that's just not my specialty. I am not a reading specialist. So it makes sense that I put him with someone who is, right? So homeschooling is not, I got to do it all myself. And I think that's where a lot of people, get hung up with, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. I don't remember how to do that. They really, I think people don't even start homeschooling because they fear the junior high and high school years. It's like, there's no way I can teach. And I don't teach calculus. I don't teach calculus. I'm not teaching no pre-calculus. I'm not teaching no algebra 2. For one, I think those subjects are pointless. Again, another topic for another day. But if my child had an interest in those things, or I knew for a fact my child was going to go into engineering and wanted to do something like that, I'm going to find him somebody that does. I don't have to be responsible for teaching it. My responsibility is to safeguard this person. safeguard his mind, safeguard his spirit.
Right.
And I think as a parent, the best way to do that is to keep him where I know he can be safe. Right. And that's outside of the school system, right? I do what I can. And some things you just have to relearn. There's some things I'm learning 2 days before I introduce it to my child. I don't remember everything. Right. And you don't have to remember everything. Yeah. You don't remember what a preposition is? Google it.
Right.
That's okay. You don't remember what an adverb is? Google it.
Yep. You
don't know what a diagraph is? Google it.
Right. Yeah.
Everything is at your fingertips. Most of us stay on our phones all day. Your child even has a phone. Your young child even has a phone. They don't know. They ask questions all the time. I say, I don't know. Google it. Then you tell me what Google. You tell me what Google said. My specialty is Black people, Black history, Black studies, African liberation. That's what I do best. I can teach math, I can teach language arts, and I do teach all of those things. But some of those things I just have to kind of reteach myself. Maybe I have to watch a YouTube video or two to refresh my own memory because it's something that I did over 20 years ago. And that's okay. It's okay to be in that space, and it's okay to say, I don't know, let me find out, you know? So I think back to what I wanted to reiterate is just that I think that everybody can homeschool. We have to make a lot of sacrifices to homeschool. Maybe you can't homeschool because you need to get a different job that has some different hours. Maybe that job is going to pay a little less, which means you need to change your lifestyle. Maybe you need to move out of that house that you pay $1,600 a month for, and maybe you need to move into a house that you can, it's $1,000 a month, so that you can accommodate for that drop in your income that's necessary for you to be able to homeschool your children. Maybe you stop doing, there's a lot of, I have made a ton, I can write a book about the sacrifices that I've made over the last 12, 13 years in order to be home with my children, educating them. And there have been some difficult times. There have been some very difficult times, but it was all worth it. I had to say what, people like, even like, our school does have tuition. People say, oh man, you gotta pay tuition. How much is tuition? They be like, oh, that's steep. I'm like, how often do you go out? How often do you eat out? How often do you buy liquor? How often do you smoke weed? How often do you get your nails done? How often do you, how much is that bundle on your head? Because I know those costs. How much is that? How much is this? How much is that? How much, how much are those, your child got on shoes that I would never pay for? You're wearing shoes that I would never, how much are those True Religion jeans you're wearing? You got the money. You just need to reprioritize and say that my child's education is more important to me than all of these other little luxuries, So we have the money to do it. We can make the time to do it. And I always tell people, if you absolutely cannot finagle work and all that, especially as single parents, I homeschool as a single parent, I say, find somebody who is. Connect yourself with some homeschoolers in your city, in your community, and say, I have a child that's school age or 2 children. Will you take my child on? I cannot. Maybe you trade off, maybe you pay them $200 a month, and you also trade off being the babysitter for date night for that couple. You have to do some bartering, and you have to pay for some stuff. People ain't going to teach your children at home all the time for free. Right? But are you willing to pay for it? Is it that important that you will invest your money into it? Put your money where your mouth is, right? If the child's education is important to you and their safety, their overall health and well-being is important, then you're going to have to pay for some things, So I think it can happen. We have to be creative, and we have to be willing to create a village and use that village. That used to be our mantra. That used to be how we operated. Right. But unfortunately, we don't even trust each other. I don't let nobody watch my kids. Honey, please. If I need some help, I need some help. And if you got it, I got it. You have to trust somebody at some point. Right. Don't tell me I don't let nobody watch my kids, and I don't let nobody watch my kids, and your children have been in school for 13 years. Oh, you let people watch your kids. People that you don't know, people that you don't know, people that you don't trust, people that don't have your child's best interest in mind. Your child will tell you they don't like the teacher. The teacher is mean to them. The teacher is disrespectful to them. The teacher doesn't listen to them. They're always being called out and singled out, and you still send them. Or they don't ever call them at all. They don't. They make sure you don't call on them. I don't let nobody watch my kids. I don't let nobody watch my kids. Somebody is watching your kids more than you're watching your kids. You let somebody watch your kids. Right. You need to develop a community where you live with people who have the same values as you have, and you need to reach out to those people and see, can they help you with educating your children? It can be done. We got to get out of our own selves and take the restrictions off of ourselves we put on ourselves, and you know, we gotta make it happen. It's imperative. It is imperative that Black children come out of the school system. Imperative.
Hey, y'all look.
That's all I got.
y'all heard it.
That's all
y'all heard it. I mean, this is what it is. And again, you know, I appreciate you, Sister Hannael, for all that you are doing, because you are definitely putting your money where your mouth is, you know. And one of the key takeaways that I hope everybody's understanding that you said is the mindset. We have to change our mindset, you know, when it comes to educating our children, because all we're going to keep doing is what we've been doing. You know what I'm saying? We're going to keep complaining. They're not teaching about Black people. You know, my kid is going to school, you know, and the teacher ain't calling on them. You know, my kid is going to school and they're being bullied. My kid is going to school, you know, and they don't feel comfortable. All of these different, we're going to have the same complaints over and over again. But the thing is that, again, we got to ask ourselves, okay, so now what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? That's the key. And just like she said, it's about a mindset. And how do we start that mindset? Number one is that we have to start reading more about our people and what it is that they've done, the hurdles that they had to cross, the obstacles that they had to face. We're talking about Black people, not just here in America, but in the whole globe. African diaspora.
The entire diaspora.
Exactly. You know, these are the things in which, man, we got to make sure that we telling our kids about for real. And that's what's going to help build their confidence, because that's really what you're speaking to, Hannael, seriously, is the whole confidence piece. You know, a lot of us, we don't have the confidence as adults. And so our kids pick up on that. So they're like, okay, you know, they see us kind of like, straddling the fence, like, oh man, like, you know, your intuition is letting you know, like, my kid shouldn't be in the school. And again, and I'm of the mindset, I feel like this, it'll be sweet if we can develop, just like how you have Global Faith Academy, if we can have our own schools across the nation, you know, that has that mindset in terms of what you are teaching at Global Faith Academy. You know what I'm saying? So even if, say, hypothetically, we had that, and then we can have it in a particular building, and it's not like, you know, whether it's a house that we choose, you know what I'm saying? And that's like, you know, we have like a group of houses, row houses, whatever, you know what I'm saying? We got the science lab here, you know what I'm saying? Just like there's a Montessori school that they had here in Cleveland. That's how they had it set up. They had like this big, nice looking house. And then you had this other part where you go, where they had the science part, you know what I'm saying? You know, and they had this part over here, you know, so there are ways in which we can do it. You know what I'm saying? We can make it happen, but the key is mindset. And like you said, trust and us working together. So those are the things in which we definitely have to have. Those are a must, you know, because you got folks, man, they really want to do this. They don't want to have their children in these schools, but they do feel like, I don't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? And so, but what I would like you to do is this last little bit right here. If you could just give us 3 things in which to help parents when it comes to even getting their children to want to read. Some 3 things that you can think of, which you've already pretty much said, you know what I'm saying, throughout the podcast. But if you could just, you know, highlight 3 points that you would like for us to take away. And then also we would like to know, what book are you currently reading, or have you, you know, finished reading as well? So those are my last 2 for you, 2 questions. So 3 points, and then what book are you currently reading or finished reading?
Okay. Because I'm at my destination now. So
okay.
I would say my 3 points are this. 1, read to your children and read with your children. Read to them. It doesn't matter how old they are. If read alouds were only for little children, the audiobook industry wouldn't be as big as it is. Audible is a huge industry, and there are others, Hoopla and others, where you can listen to books. Reading books aloud don't have an age limit on them. So you can read aloud to your 15-year-old, 16-year-old. They're never too old for you to read aloud to them. So I would say read aloud to them and read with them. And I'm lumping those together because I think I probably have more than 3. 2 I already mentioned. Provide books for them that have people that look like them, characters that look like them, names that sound familiar to them in their cultural experience. That's very important. And I would also say, Lord, I lost my third one. Oh, goodness. Oh, my third one. Oh, gosh, I had it on my mind too. My third one would be,
I know you said having all the books all around. I know that. I remember when you said that.
Yeah, that would be a third one, but I had another one. Make sure that you have. Oh, this is what I was going to say. I was going to say make reading something that they can get rewards for.
Okay.
Add it to their list of things that they do. I don't know if you have a chore list.
Okay.
Let me say this, and this is a twofold. Never assign reading or writing as a punishment. That's number one.
Okay.
Because then it's associated with something that I don't want to do. I do it in anger. I do it only when I'm mad or when I'm in trouble. Never, ever, ever. They get in trouble. Man, go write, copy the dictionary. Go read. Go to your room and read a book. Never assign reading as a punishment. Never, ever, ever. And also reward them for reading. I'm not above giving you $1 because you read a book. And you even have a system to say there's 50 cents for little children, 50 cents for every book that you read. And at the end of the week, we tally up and you pay them whatever they earn for the week. I'm not above paying children to do what's good or what I would want them to do. And I think that reading, I think that includes punishment, and to reward them for reading. And it doesn't have to be monetary. It can be whatever it is whatever kind of system you're used to using in your home. Some people pay money for chores. Some people do other things for chores. Pay them to read. And the book that I last read is called Raising Free People. It is by Akilah S, and she is an unschooler. Again, a whole other topic for a whole other day. I read that book in like a couple of days, changed my life. I already in my heart want to be.
Of course it glitched.
I want to show. I don't think it's children. I think it's always more so you. But there's so much in that book to unpack. And you can find her on Instagram at Fare of the Free Child, FARE of the Free Child. At Fare of the Free Child, FARE of the Free Child. Her name is Akilah S. Her book is Raising Free People. Just finished reading that last week.
Nice.
Yes, Raising Free People. And I bought that book from Black World Schoolers, who's also another unschooling family, and they have an online bookstore. Super dope. Love them. Love their family. Love everything they're doing. So you can purchase that book also via Instagram at Black_World_Schoolers. Black World Schoolers. 2 underscores in there, and then just click the link in their bio, and they'll take you to their website and their bookstore and everything like that. So, yep.
Dope.
That's it.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that in the description box too when I upload the videos to.
Okay, I can text that to you too.
Yeah, I wrote it down, but please, text it to me. That'd be great. Yeah, because I definitely want to let the people know that. And can you please tell everybody again, the name of your school, and give everybody your social media handle so they can see what it is that you're doing, and also too, if you're accepting students, let folks know, what I'm saying, if that's something that you are capable of doing at this time. I'm quite sure some people are going to be asking that, like, I wonder if she's accepting students, so give everybody that information to contact you.
Okay, so we are Global Faith Academy on everything. Global, GLOBAL, Faith, SAITH Academy. We're that on Instagram, we're that on Facebook, and that's our web address as well, globalfaithacademy.com. I do tell people, though we're on Facebook, I'm not really on Facebook. Okay. I don't check Facebook. You know how you can post on Instagram and it just kind of overflows to Facebook. Yes. That's how everything gets to Facebook, but not everything carries over. So if you only follow us on Facebook, you're missing a good portion of our content. So I would say you really need to follow us on Instagram, and that is the absolute best way to contact me is through direct message on Instagram. Is to contact us there. Are we accepting new students? That would depend on the grade level of the student. Okay. So many different things. We're making some transitions and things, and I'm working on some things to put out something like to offer a different type of enrollment for next school year. Okay. So I actually had a parent reach out to me like 2 days ago about both of her children, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But it really depends on their grade levels, and it would also depend on my conversation with the parent, because like I said again, I'm not interested if I have to, like, I don't have time and the energy to convince you for an Afrocentric curriculum. Right. You know, I don't have time. I don't want to put my energy there. So if you ain't already feeling what I'm saying, if you ain't already vibing with me, and then you want to know, like, well, like you said, questions like, well, if they don't take a standardized test, then how do we know if they're learning anything? Right. You know, like if we got to go through all of that, I'm too far along to go through all of those kind of things. Right. So it really would depend on the parents and what they understand to be important, and, you know, how we can connect, you know, and, you know, how willing their children are. You know, how willing their children are. You know, a big part of homeschooling is parents are choosing for children what to do instead of children being allowed to choose anything. And they're like, I don't want to be. For my son, I had my son in our online school, obviously, when school started. A few weeks in, he was like, Mom, I don't want to do this online. I just want to be me and you. Like, can we carve out some time during the day where it can be the same stuff, but I just don't want to sit on that computer. I don't want to be listening to other people laughing and keep cackling and carrying on and doing whatever. I just don't want to do that. Wow. And I had to say, okay. Yeah. And so I took him out of the online, and, you know, we'll work independently. You know, it could be the same stuff and sometimes it's different stuff, but, you know, and also, like I said, also will depend on if the child is even interested in that kind of environment and even trying to try something like that. Yeah, because I'm not into forcing children to do that kind of learning. That's right. It's not for everybody. Online is not for everybody. Yeah, you got to, and that's you're reaching out to her obviously because this is what you know that you want for your child, and you also believe that your child will be able to thrive in that, you know, in her particular environment. So, and you don't have to reach out to me because you want your child to be enrolled in the school. I also do homeschool consultation. So that's also a service that I offer. Oh. Yeah, so if you're, I mean, it doesn't have to be that you want them to go to my school. It can be, I just want to and I need some direction. I have questions. I have this. Then I have the time. Then I can make time for conversing about those other kind of questions that I don't necessarily want to converse about when it pertains to enrollment, right? If you're new to homeschool and you're trying to wrap your head around it and figure out this, that, and this, that, and this, that, you can contact me and we can do a consultation for that as well. It doesn't just have to be about school enrollment. It doesn't have to be about school enrollment.
Oh, well, I'm glad you said that. Thank you. That's very, very important. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, again, girl, I appreciate you so much. And what I'm going to do is I usually end with a quote on my podcast, and I'm going to put this quote right here. And this is from the Honorable Marcus Garvey. All right. And Marcus Garvey. Yes. A people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots.
Without roots.
You already
like a tree without roots. That's one of my favorite quotes of all time.
Yes.
Certainly one of my favorite quotes from him. I had that hanging on the wall of our first school building. Yes.
Come on. Yes, come on.
Got to know the roots. Can't be a tree without roots.
That's right.
Can't be a tree without roots.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate your time. Thank you so
Thank
much. I
you,
love you. I love you, love you, love
Yes,
you.
I love you.
I wish I didn't have to run. I hope the game started late.
Oh, well, I appreciate
I
you.
hope they started late. So
I understand. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. We thank you.
miss too much, but
Uh, yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Love you.
Love you too.
Assalamu
Bye-bye.
alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you guys for listening to Real Reading Talk. I'm your host, Ms. Seisha, and make sure that you all are taking notes. Again, like I said, she dropped a lot of nuggets, and I hope that you all are implementing those. And if you are not, please make sure that you are doing that ASAP. All right. You all take care, and remember to please keep reading to your children as much as you can for at least 30 minutes a day. Peace.